Today, this generation faces some of the deepest, most complex challenges our nation has ever confronted: an economy in peril, a broken energy system, a climate in crisis. This weekend, over 12,000 young people from campuses across the country gathered in Washington, D.C. to take part in the largest student conference ever focused on climate and energy. The economic recovery package allocated up to $60 billion for clean energy projects that will increase wind turbine manufacturing and solar panel installation. To truly launch a renewable revolution, Congress must pass climate legislation that will cap pollution and invest in the technology of tomorrow. It is a moral obligation that we owe to the children of the generation testifying today. President Kennedy started the Peace Corps. President Clinton called citizens to serve through AmeriCorps. Now is the time for the next generation to be part of the Clean Energy Corps, to build a new energy backbone. To build a new energy backbone for this country that harnesses the power of smart technology, puts people to work, and protects our planet.
And what we've come here to remind you today is that the fight for clean and just energy, the fight for bold action on climate change, is not just another bill. It is not just another political priority. It is not just another campaign promise. The urgency and magnitude of the topics we come to discuss today could not be more pressing or more timely. We are here today as the voice of a generation pleading and demanding with you for urgent action to address our climate and energy crises. Over the course of the past 3 days, 12,000 of us gathered here in our nation's capital. Our dirty energy economy is failing us and the 3.6 million people that have lost their jobs. The economy, the unemployed Americans cannot wait. In 2009, we implored this Congress to stand up and listen to the 24 million of us that headed to the polls on November 4th. We demand that you pass bold climate legislation in 2009. Over the course of these next months, as the oil lobby and the coal lobby and the gas lobby fill these halls, they will be trying to write the bill. They will plug our airwaves with ads. They will put money into the campaign funds of our elected officials. They will try to halt the progress that we know cannot be halted. I ask you to remember the faces of the people in this room today. Remember that a generation's future is on the line. We cannot wait. The world cannot wait. Let us help you in sending the strongest possible bill to President Obama's desk this year. Help us in achieving the clean and just energy future we all need and deserve. Thank you.
The industries that the officials in my hometown have decided to bring in to help spur job growth have been the prison industry, the uranium industry, and the gambling industry. And it puzzles me because New Mexico is number 2, that's correct, number 2 in the entire nation for solar potential and number 12 for wind potential. We are literally having opportunities shining down upon us, yet for some reason we're letting them blow right past us. Van Jones said it the best when he says, if we're willing to recycle dead materials in this movement, then we better be willing to recycle living people because they deserve another chance as well.
Over the last year, there have been over 30 cancer-related deaths that I know of on the Fort Berthold Reservation. I myself was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer when I was 20 years old. And I'm here to tell you that I don't believe that's a coincidence. Indigenous peoples have been systematically targeted by the fossil fuel regime for years. Many of our tribal leaders have been convinced that they must sell the resources in the land in order to progress. And because our cultures are so dependent on our relationship with the land, we ultimately become economically dependent on our own cultural destruction. And the thing I cannot understand is why so many indigenous peoples are dying every day due to unsustainable mining, extraction, refinement, and storage processes, when there is a wealth of renewable energy potential on our indigenous lands. Wind capacity on the Indian reservations in North Dakota and South Dakota alone are equal to 200,000 megawatts. That is enough energy to produce 1/3 of America's electricity demands. The solar electricity generation potential on indigenous lands is 4.5 times greater than the current U.S. total annual generation. And given all that we know, we, the future of America, are demanding that the U.S. government enact an immediate moratorium on new oil, gas, and coal, and nuclear plant construction and infrastructure, while phasing out existing plants and fossil fuel extraction and ensuring a just transition for the workforce in our communities.
You know that you're using a straw man argument when you justify legislative inaction by pointing to China and India's industrialization, because you know that both of them have released 21st century energy plans far, far more comprehensive than this country has. You know that mountaintop removal coal mining has destroyed thousands upon thousands of miles of headwater streams. You know that children in eastern Kentucky color their water red in coloring books because they don't know it's supposed to run clear. And you know that this constitutes the digging of our own collective grave. You also know that there are 4,000 parts in one solar panel. And you know the promise that this holds for job creation in a moment of historic economic crisis.
We have to really figure out how we find a way that works. That's really the foundation of my environmentalism, my activism. It's finding a way that works. I think that's the challenge before us, and it unites all people and all places and all types of solutions. I really take to heart an idea expressed by one of our movement visionaries, Van Jones, when he says, as activists, we need to stop complaining about the problems. Instead, we need to be preparing for governance. I think that's really our role as young people, to start the process of preparing for governance. And I think we can't do that alone. We need all of the leaders in Congress, and we need everyone else, from the financiers to the community organizers. We have to do this together. We have to look for ways that we can engage each other and other people in the process. It's not going to work alone. We're not going to get to any of these types of solutions by ourselves. We need your help. When I came to McAllister in 2005, I was already starting to get connected with other members of the climate movement. I helped other students start green roofs and building insulation, carbon inventories, and all of that great stuff. But the consistent problem I found was that we would think of a project, get some people on board, research the idea, somehow find funding, go do it, and then we're back to square one. And that just reinforced what I think is a common assumption, that sustainability and climate solutions and a clean energy economy is expensive and inconvenient. Sure, morally we should do it, we're all on board with that, but if the economy is going down, it's maybe not as high a priority. I don't think that makes sense. I don't think that makes any sense. The way I responded at McAllister was by creating the Clean Energy Revolving Fund, which is basically a finance mechanism that allowed us to invest in simple improvements, light bulbs, building insulation. Now we're starting to move on to renewable energy. And use the savings or revenue that created to reinvest in the fund. So it's basically a way to get sustainability to fund sustainability. It's grown to $100,000. At a college of 1,900 students. We got a 40% return in our first year. That's 4 times the stock market. When it's not collapsing. I'm also not a financial expert. I'm looking at light bulbs. This is pretty simple. The the question for me is, you know, we've generated these huge opportunities at one little college in Minnesota, and it's, you know, spreading to other campuses around the country. What if we were to look at that opportunity nationwide?